I've travelled all over Europe visiting theme parks, from the world-class resorts right the way down to the small hidden gems. And in this video, I'm going to rank each one of them so you can work out what's worth travelling for. Right, let's start over in Germany with a park that keeps winning awards. In fact, it has won Best Theme Park in the World something like 10 times, and that is, of course, Europa-Park. Now, this is a fantastic park, as you would imagine, and given the award that it keeps winning. It is huge. You probably need 2 or 3 days to visit this park. They also have a water park known as Rolantica, which I didn't get to experience on my visit, but everybody raves about it. The park itself is insanely themed. Fantastic set of attractions, right the way from the smallest member of the family, right the way up to that thrill seeker. They have a ridiculous number of dark rides, as well as the coaster lineup. And of course, their latest edition, Voltron, is an absolute masterpiece. It is a crazy coaster, tons and tons of forces, and it is the peak of German efficiency because they're chucking out the trains something like every 30 seconds. Literally a conveyor belt of trains going past, and off you go. Undeniably, this is one of the best parks out there, that's why it keeps winning awards. So we're going to start strong and chuck this one in S tier. Right, next up we're going to head over to the Netherlands, and this time we're going to go into Efteling. Now, this is a very, very different proposition from Europa-Park because this one is all about that fairy tale magic. It is also a park that is fantastically themed. Every area is immaculate. The rides themselves are fantastic. You're not going to find much for the thrill seeker in this park though. Probably the most thrilling thing they have is Baron 1898, which is their dive coaster, and it is definitely the most themed dive coaster out there. Even the lift hill is themed to look like a mineshaft. They have impressive dark rides such as Droomvlucht. Their boat ride, Fata Morgana, often compared to Pirates of the Caribbean, is brilliant, although a little bit weird and quirky. They have the fairy tale forest. Now, this is what the park started as and what it's known for. This is not a small area to go around in this park. Do not think, oh, if I visit, I'll just spend an hour or two in the fairy tale forest. You could easily spend a whole day in there. I mean, if you want to see it all and take it in and look at all the intricate details and all the different scenes, it is massive. It will definitely take up some time. They also have a rather quirky kind of food vending machine system all around the park. You know, kind of contactless, 1 or 2 euros, can't remember, and then you get these hot snacks. Absolutely brilliant. Definitely a fantastic park. However, because it's not really aimed at that thrill seeker, I'm going to knock it down a little peg. If you are a family though, you probably would rate this one higher than I am. I'll put this one in B tier. Right, let's head over to Spain, and this time we're going to go to Madrid and Parque Warner. This is an interesting park that I've visited a couple of times. Now, on my first visit a few years ago, I had an excellent time. It was during a heat wave, which I think kept the crowds quite low, and I managed to get on everything that was there. They do have some fantastic attractions. On my recent visit, November last year, things were a little bit less great. The ride operations were a bit poor, ride availability was a little bit poor, and if I hadn't been before, I'd be quite let down on that visit. In terms of ride lineup, there's some fantastic attractions there. Their invert coaster is Shadows of Arkham, fantastic. I'm not a massive fan of floorless coasters, so Superman is okay. They have Stuntfall. Now, they're very rare these days to find these giant boomerang coasters, and it's even more rare to find it on a day that it's actually working. So be careful if you go, you might not get on this one. Their headline attraction, Gotham City Escape, is absolutely fantastic. Often compared to, or called the Spanish Velocicoaster. I can see why. It's the same concept, same model, some similar elements, but very different beast, and a lot of fun. The ride operations though, they do let this park down, and for that reason I'm going to knock it down to B tier. Now, I'm the kind of person that when I visit a park, or if I'm travelling internationally, I want to try and hit up a few parks. If I'm going to go out of my way to go to another country, specifically for a park, I'm going to see what else is in the area. So I did this the last time I went to Madrid, and I also went to Parque de Atracciones, which is nothing like Parque Warner. It's kind of very rundown. It's an odd little place that's got one of the most janky kids coasters that I've been on. It's got an SB&O Wild Mouse standing but not operating, so I didn't get on that one. It's got an attraction known as Abysmal, or Abysmal, because it is a very, very painful coaster. It's great to watch off rides. It's kind of like this vertical lift and does it looks good. It doesn't ride good. Some of their flat rides are on their last legs. They have a hush top spin that, I mean, it's crawling, it's struggling, and it's making weird noises. It's just no good. So if you're a cred hunter, by all means go to this park. If you're in the area, by all means go to this park. I wouldn't go out my way just to visit this park. Chuck this one down in D tier. Now if we head over to France, there's a park that everybody will know. Some of you will already have visited and others will have it on their bucket list, and that is Disneyland Paris. Now, I've visited this park many times over the years, and if you don't know, they do have a second gate. So they've got the main Disneyland Paris park, and then they've got a second one which used to be called Disney Studios. It's been renamed this year, and they can't remember the new name. But they're finally investing some money into there because it was always a bit of a letdown. They put the Avengers in that area, they've now put Frozen Land in, and they're working on Lion King. So great to see this being expanded and finally giving us 2 parks. Now here's the thing, it is Disney, and if you've never experienced Disney, you have to go and experience this. They do have some of the better versions of Disney attractions. So, for example, Big Thunder, Tower of Terror, and Space Mountain, I think are better than the American counterparts. But I have experienced the Floridian Park a few times, and I think if you've been to Florida, you might be a little underwhelmed by the Paris version. If you've never done Disney though, this is an absolute must. So I'm going to chuck it in A tier. Now this next one is a hidden gem, and I don't think many people know about this park, unless you are an enthusiast, and then of course you will. Over in Germany there is a park known as Phantasialand, and it is one of my favourite parks ever. It has a very small footprint, comparable to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. However, I would argue it's got immersion on the level of Disney and Universal. They have some fantastic areas. Rookburg, where they have their flying coaster, Klugheim, where they have Taron. They are just spectacular. The theming is insane. They are just fantastic places to be. The ride lineup is also fantastic. That flying coaster is a masterpiece. We need to get more of those. Taron is brilliant. You've probably seen Talican. It's their top spin, which is the same ride as Toxicator, except you'll have seen it online. It's the one with water and fire, and it flips a load. Like, it is brilliant. They really go for a spectacle in this park. It's a small family park, and it is absolutely insane. You probably need a couple of days on this one. It might not be the biggest park, but if you want to take it in and enjoy everything, I wouldn't rush it in one day. Definitely one of my highlights and one of my favourite parks. I'm going to chuck this one up in S tier. Now, as I said earlier, if I'm travelling, I will try and hit up a few parks to kind of make that trip a little more valuable. And I did this when I went to the Netherlands a couple of years ago, or last year it might have been actually. When I went to Efteling, I thought I'll also do Walibi Holland. I've heard various things about it. I was underwhelmed by this park. Now, people talk about Goliath, people talk about Untamed. I found Goliath to be a bit of a letdown, and I found Untamed to be rather uncomfortable. If you've watched this channel before, you will know I find RMC trains quite painful. There are exceptions, we'll get to one later on in the video, but Untamed for me, brilliant layout, excellent coaster in terms of its layout and visually, just wasn't comfortable for me. They do have some other attractions that I did enjoy. I thought Lost Gravity was fantastic, their log flume is excellent. They've got an outdoor coaster platform, Express Platform 13 I think it's called. Believe it's exactly the same layout as Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney, except it is outdoors. And it's weird because the launch is really punchy and then it kind of meanders around the track. I don't know if it's just when a coaster is indoor it feels more intense. I found it a bit of a letdown. Definitely, now they've included new rides since I was there. So they put in a dueling RMC known as Yoi. I've not heard great things about it. So for me, this park was a bit of a letdown. I'm going to chuck it in C tier. Right, we're about halfway through this video. First of all, I'd love if you could like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, but I'll also put links in the description down below to the vlogs from all these parks so that you can go and watch them firsthand and see how I experienced the park and make your own mind up. Right, the next one's a little bit odd. It's the second park I visited after starting the channel. Now, when I was there, it was known as Plopsaland De Panne. I think it's changed its name to Plopsa Belgium now. It's a strange place. Now, people know this park for one attraction, and that is the ride to happiness. It's an excellent thrill coaster. It's a Mack Extreme spinning coaster. You'll have seen it, or if you haven't, you'll want to see it. It's a visual spectacle as it leaves the station. That JoJo roll as it slowly comes out and does an inversion before the first launch. Excellent. Onboard audio, brilliant. Absolutely adds to the package. The park itself is a kids' park. Plopsa is a children's channel. It seems really odd to put this big thrill coaster inside a little kids park, and they haven't expanded since to add more thrilling coasters, so I kind of question why it was there. It is nonetheless absolutely brilliant. They've got a few other good attractions. Anubis is excellent. Heidi the Ride, their wooden coaster, also fantastic. But like I said, a little bit strange, that kind of putting this big coaster into a small kids park. Now, depending on where you live, this may or may not be the easiest place to get to. For me, up in Scotland, I had to fly and get trains, and it was a bit of a faff. If you're somebody further down south in England and you're able to use the Channel Tunnel, I believe it is very accessible. It's a weird park. If you're a cred hunter, you need to go. If you've got a young family, you need to go. Otherwise, it's just going to be that one ride and you're going to go, why am I here? So I'm going to chuck this one also in B tier. Right, heading over to Spain again, and this time PortAventura. This is a park that is beautiful. Like, it is very well themed, has a fantastic selection of rides. Shambhala is brilliant, one of my favourite coasters. Over in Ferrariland, one of their, technically it's a second park, although if you ask anybody, it should just be a land in the main park. That has Red Force, which is currently the tallest coaster in Europe, also fantastic. Things like Uncharted, that is a brilliant coaster, excellently themed up until the ride station, and then it's like they ran out of money and didn't do anything on the ride. Now the ride itself is great, but it's a bit of a letdown. The thing about this park, you're in Spain, so you're probably going to get great weather, which is excellent. They have brilliantly themed areas, fantastic. They have great rides, fantastic. Historically though, they have been known for terrible ride operations. Now when I visited back in 2023, it was like 5-minute dispatches on some of their coasters, which that's not good. Now I've heard a lot of people recently telling me that this year things have magically sorted themselves out and the operations are actually really, really good. Now, the number of people that have said this to me makes me think something has changed, and that is fantastic to hear because that was my biggest complaint about this park. So if that is true, then this is definitely one of those parks you need to visit. And given its location, it's right next to Salou, so if you're one that just wants to go for a family holiday and pop in for a few days, brilliant, go do that. Let's chuck this one, subject to that ride availability of course, let's chuck it in B tier, shall we? Now this time I'm going to head over to Sweden for a park. Now I visited this park for one attraction only, or specifically for one attraction I should say, and that is an attraction that we now have in the UK, and I couldn't wait for them to build it, so I went over to Sweden to experience it. The ride in question was Loki at Liseberg. Of course that is now the same as Evictus that we have here in Blackpool. Liseberg is a brilliant park because it's in the centre of the city on a hillside, so it's very accessible, really, really easy to get to. Like, almost certain your accommodation is going to be within like a 5-10 minute walk off the park. And it's beautiful because of that kind of hillside. Great selection of rides as well. Their coaster Helix, which is kind of comparable to Icon, but better. Loki, as I said, that is brilliant. Now that interacts with their wooden coaster known as Balder. That is bonkers. That thing is so much fun. Airtime, it is just fantastic. Tons and tons of flat rides. There's just so much to do. In fact, when I went, I'm glad I had 2 days because I wouldn't have got on everything. And actually, I did miss a couple of things because some of the attractions are seasonal. So they have a gigantic drop tower, and towards the end of the year, when it's in maintenance, they kind of decorate it like a Christmas tree. So I went for Halloween and I didn't get on that one. So I need to go back out there. But it is a beautiful park and definitely one you need to visit. So I'm going to chuck this one up in A tier. Now, a park that I had heard a lot about and I really wanted to visit over in Poland is Energylandia. It's a park that has a rather large selection of coasters, or at least it does on the face of it. It has, I think, 11 credits, and they're building one right now, which they've not announced, so we don't know what it is. But I went out there specifically for one attraction, and that is Zadra. Now, I said earlier, I'm not a huge fan of RMCs, but I'd heard so many good things about this coaster that I had to get out there and experience it firsthand. And I have to say, it's one of the few RMCs that I thoroughly enjoyed. I really found it comfortable, airtime, hang time, just brilliant, so smooth, so fast, relentless. It's just amazing. When you enter the park, they have Hyperion, which is just a massive coaster right there, big drop straight out over the car park and back in again. Also fantastic. The thing is, it feels like they just chuck coasters in for the sake of chucking coasters in. There's a lot of small family coasters that are very similar to each other that kind of bulk out that ride lineup. Now, I didn't experience the full park because I went in January, I think it was, and in the winter months, the kind of water section of the park is closed because, well, it's bloody freezing. So I haven't been on things like Abyssus, and I do need to get back out there. Those two rides though, Hyperion and Zadra alone, made it worth visiting for me. The only criticism I have is that some attractions like Zadra and their mine train, the Choco Chip mine train, have incredibly long queue lines, and I genuinely don't think they're ever going to be that busy even in the summer. Could be wrong, maybe they are genuinely needed, but get your hiking shoes on because it's like a 10-minute walk from the entrance to the ride itself, which is just crazy. Fantastic park though, and Poland is nice and cheap. It's easy to get to, the food is cheap, the driving, like I think we hired a car, I saw cars from like £1 a day. I paid a little more than that because I wanted a nice car, but you can get there cheap, flights are cheap, etc. So definitely one to go over. Just be careful though, like I say, in the winter months some of the park is closed, so you get a reduced ride lineup. I do need to go back in the summer months and experience this one, but it is fantastic. I'm going to chuck it up in an A tier. Now, I appreciate that is just scratching the surface. There are significantly more parks across Europe that I have not yet experienced, but I thought I'd rank the ones that I had in case you've never been, so that well, you can decide where you're going next. If you have been to any of these parks, I'd love to know whether you agree with these ratings. Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this one, hit that like button and please do subscribe. I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios. Right, let's hold. I'm going to call it Plopsaland De Panne. I beve it's changed its name now to Plopsa Germany. No.